The Cross'em Wrestling Entertainment Podcast, presented by Clovercrest Media, is what you AEW fans have been looking for. Noah Cross and Tyler Bard give their take on every week's episode of Dynamite. If you are a massive AEW fan, then it is time to join us every Sunday at noon Eastern Standard Time. Stay Cross'em.
I love wiffle ball. No other way to explain it. Just something about the game, the feel of the grass, smacking that ball all over the field, making plays, diving head first, whatever it takes to get the job done. That's what wiffle ball means to me. Striking out grown men, watching their knees buckle on a called third strike. Sit out, bud. And then, of course, the home runs, the base hits, the big home runs at the big moments. That's a whiff of greatness. Join us all season long for the Joe Aguirre story, a CMG podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is our main event.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Throwing Jabs Combat Sports Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Big Jace, joined by Joe Aguirre and Jared Jones. And we had a lot of good fights last week, so let's dive into those. Starting off with a potential fight of the year contender. You guys were blowing up my phone talking about this fight. Jerwin Ancajas retains his IBF Junior Bantamweight Championship against Jonathan Rodriguez via unanimous decision. Jared, I'm going to start off with you. What did you think of the fight?
I said if there was an upset coming on either one of those cards, this was going to be it. I said Rodriguez was a gamer and being thoroughly underestimated in this fight. And I was right on every count. This should be an immediate fight of the year candidate. This reminded me of Gotti Ward. Amazingly, in that 9th round, the 6th they started trading the body shots that Rodriguez, oh my God, and kept coming. And you're losing the fight. This is when I say boxing brings something else out of you. People talk about sports building character. Those body shots that Rodriguez survived. The average human being runs into times like that in their life when they can breathe and goes away. If you've ever felt a body shot like that, you know what that guy was going through. And I tell you, there is a small percentage of human beings that can do what Rodriguez did, especially when you're losing on scorecards, when you're down and you know that you're not landing the stuff that's going to win you the fight. The closest scorecard was 3 points. 3 points, 5 points, 7 points. You were behind, and it was obvious. And you fought your ass off, this kid. Did I tell you now that this was a huge upset? The odds were all messed up, and it was going to be a really close fight. Man, that was a great fight. This was fight of the year for me so far.
Oh, yeah. I mean, what a great fight this was. Titan lived up to his name. I'll say that. I think if he had gone to the body early like Ancajas had, I think maybe things could have turned out a little bit differently, especially in those middle rounds. It was around when Ancajas dropped him. Was that the 9th? 9th,
yeah.
You know, a big difference in the final score. But man, Rodriguez, to watch some of those late round exchanges, Jared. I mean, again, the heart you saw from a guy who knew he was behind, who had gone down, and who somehow, I mean, man, some of those exchanges, the combo, and then combo right back. I mean, testament to that kid that he stayed strong. But it's time for Ancajas now to let's get to the next level, big guy.
And I'm not quick to say somebody looked like Ali or somebody that, the fight was like Gotti Ward, and I actually dislike it when other people do that. But when I saw him walking through those body shots and the grimaces on his faces and looked down and saw it was the 9th round, I couldn't help it. Like, how can you watch Gotti Ward? And how could you have seen that fight, 6th round, when they stand toe-to-toe and trade punches, and it looks different than every other round? And then the 9th round where the body shots start landing and Gotti goes down, it was not Gotti Ward. But the fight followed that pattern. It was in the essence of Gotti Ward, the 9th round body shots, the war in the 6th. These guys put on a show, man. Now, unlike our partner Jace.
Yeah. But no. Last week we talked about how Ancajas always likes to fight down to the level of his opponent. And I mean, it was a great fight, but I guess we saw that a little bit as we saw Rodriguez kind of fight his way back. So is Ancajas ready for the cream of the crop? Is he ready to go up against the upper echelon guys around his weight?
No. This is further evidence of what I say about scrub scraps, that the skill level of the fighters is not necessarily going to dictate the ticket sales or the entertainment factor. That this is fight of the year quality, and neither one of those guys belongs on that next level. No and no. This is where we need to see them. This is the level they're on. There's levels to this, and neither one of them's that next level guy. And I'm going to say that again in our next fight that we cover too. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, I think Ancajas can, because of the idea that he fights to the level of his opponent. I think that inconsistency almost makes him a little dangerous. You almost want to take him, as a more talented fighter. You're thinking, this guy doesn't step up. Those are the fights he steps up for. So I think he can be competitive. I don't know that he's going to win. I like the way he fought. I think he's a really good boxer. I mean, the idea of going to the body, when the other guy's just throwing at your head the first bunch of rounds. Jared, better than anybody. It's easy to get into, I'm going to punch you back in the head. No, I'm going to keep working I'm going to keep working the body, level changes. I'm doing my thing. And eventually Rodriguez was like, I should do this too. So, I think if you're a smart guy, you could stick to your game plan. He was never hurt in the fight, so you got to feel good for him there too. I'd love to see him and Chocolito sometime this year throw 1,000 punches. That might be some fun. Yeah.
It'd be fun. Yeah.
This kid can take a punch. He could throw a punch. I like the way he boxes. I think, again, Jared, whether he can dominate at the next level, I would say at this point, no. Can he compete at that level? Yeah. Will he give Chocolito a good fight? Yeah. Would I pick him? No. But put him up there. See what he's got. Again, I think a guy who can. It's unfortunate that you would sort of go up or down based on opponent, but if he can do that with the big boys, then let's see what happens.
Yeah, let's see if he can do it. So far, he's only played down to his opponents. I agree with that.
Fair.
I agree with that premise. Let's put him against somebody else and see if he is really following that. Because if he's that guy that kind of rises and falls with his opponent, yeah, let's get him in there with Loma and see what happens.
Well, listen, this was his first fight with Al Heyman. So, now these are fights that I think he can actually have. He was with Bob Arum for a decade. Yeah. Nice job, Bob. I mean, nothing doing, dude. I think it's time for Bob to hang him up. You're done, buddy.
Well, I mean, Bob Arum.
Time for Bob to air him out.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, Bob Arum and ESPN put together a WBO light heavyweight title fight, whereas Joe Smith defeated Maxim Vlasov via majority decision. Jared, I know you alluded to this earlier. What do you guys say about this fight?
Same thing. Great fight. Vlasov was so unorthodox and hard to hit, and obviously built a little bit bigger of a human being. But Joe Smith is a dog, man. This is, I mean, wow. Every time I thought he was out of the fight, he'd do something like just answering punches. He wanted to go get it back. Great fight. I had Joe Smith. I wouldn't have been mad with a draw. Pretty sure that's how Joe said he had it. I thought Joe Smith won, but when I look at those other names, and I mean the top of the list for me, you guys already know, is Artur Beterbiev. You put him in there with either one of those guys, he will walk them down and smash them. Neither one of these guys goes 4 rounds with Beterbiev unless he takes his time. The top of the line in this division will smash either one of these guys. So good show. If this is the next tier behind Beterbiev, we got a huge problem at light heavyweight.
I did have this fight as a draw. I said to Jared yesterday, if me, Andre Ward, and that first judge were scoring, this thing would have been 114 split. I like Joe Smith a lot. I was rooting for him in the fight. I don't know where anybody's finding a 7th round for him. I could barely get 6. So with that knockdown not being a knockdown, I mean, again, if you're scoring different, you're scoring because of the more power punches. Okay, I guess then he won the fight. It was a great fight. What struck me the most about Joe Smith, he reminds me of the old Francis Ngannou, where he's just waiting to hit you with an overhand right. He threw, I think, 2 or 3 good hard lefts at Vlasov. They were all really good punches, and I couldn't help but think, throw it more! Throw it more! You have 2 hands! Use the other one! Oh, my God, dude. That blew my mind. Meanwhile, Vlasov, listen, this fight went how I said it was going to go. That it was going to take Smith some time to figure this thing out, and it definitely did. The problem with Vlasov, as I see it, is one of 2 things. One, he's weak. Because, dude, he throws a lot of lefts. They're always in your face. I noticed it in his last fight, too. It doesn't do any damage. So I don't know if in this fight it's because of the COVID that he was recovering from, or if he just doesn't hit hard enough. But to me, look, Vlasov, I love the style. I love the way he fights. I enjoyed this fight a lot. But I don't know how this guy beats people. I really don't. It's shocking. But honestly, I would say this. Everybody we've seen come off COVID has lost. It's striking. I mean, there's something to that, and there's something to the stamina in these guys, because you get this COVID, boy, I don't know. Seems like none of these guys just has it anymore when they come back. So, again, I can't speak much to Vlasov, but if that's the best he's got, yikes. It just wasn't good enough.
Sports too, Joe. Go through the sports. Tennis, basketball, it's happening a little bit everywhere.
Everybody that gets it, man, it's definitely affecting the lungs, and it's definitely having an impact. I mean, Vlasov, before COVID, I'd love to see this fight. I think he probably wins this one in a close one.
Yeah, me too. But I don't agree with the idea of, like, how does he ever win fights? Do you remember Ray Oliveira? He was my favorite when it came to this. I think it was like 75-10 or something. But who would you know? Nate Diaz. Those Diaz brothers.
Love them.
They're not hitting you with hard stuff, but they're keeping you off balance and doing enough. And if I land right here, it can be that hard. I'm moving my feet too. And as long as I'm putting that punch in the right spot, that little bit of pressure to make you wobble or lean, it's taking all of the power off your shots. It's taking all of your balance away. You're not able to really do anything.
It's a tough way to win.
Well, Thanos does that in our league. Little Chris, he's all of 145, 150 pounds when we were fighting him, 5'6", but he'd put his chin right between his ankles. And then he'd start going back and forth like this. And you could never tell which side the punches were coming from. He's a little bit faster. Not a little bit. A little bit faster than me, but for most of us, he was a bit faster.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't have to hit you hard. He landed an uppercut that made me see stars once, but most of it was pop, 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 pop. And you're Rocky trying to catch the rabbit. So, and that's how Ray Oliveira fought, was the same thing. My plan is to throw 120 punches around, and you are not going to be able to knock me out. I'll see you after the 12th when we read the judges' scorecards. It's a hard way to win, but it's also a hard guy to beat. If I'm literally going to throw over 100 punches around for 12 rounds, and I've never been knocked out. So I'll see you in 1,200 punches. Ding, ding. Yeah.
Now, listen, I love a good technician as much as the next guy. I just think in that division, I just don't know if that's the style I'd prefer. It just doesn't look good. Again, you put him up against a guy like Smith, and Smith said it himself after the fight. Obviously, they saw I landed more power punches. That's what did it. That's why I won this fight. I think there's something to a guy pounding you and you just kind of boop. I mean, I love it. Again, I love it. I love the fact that my goodness, Vlasov threw so many lefts. Smith was begging for rights. I loved it.
Nate Diaz, though. McGregor's landing these huge pow, and Nate's just walking through them. Pop, 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 pop. Boom! Pop, 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 pop. And I'll take it over Gagey. I'll take it over Gagey's.
I can't think of the last light heavyweight champion who wasn't a power guy. I guess that's my issue with Vlasov. I like Vlasov, don't get me wrong, but who's the last guy that wasn't a real power puncher?
Canelo.
Pavlik.
I said top.
Yeah.
Again, I worry long term, and I worry just again how much of that power is lessened from COVID, and what does that mean going forward? I think he's a great fighter. I love the style, and again, if you put a gun in my head and said who won this fight, I would have said Vlasov won it.
Yeah, I mean, it reminded me a lot of Triple G and Canelo 2, where, I mean, it went to the guy who was who had the power shots, but you could also, if you were a true like boxing purist, you have to recognize the jab. You have to recognize people getting those small little touch punches, even though they don't mean a lot. So, yeah, it was a good fight. But now let's move over to the.
Wow, I just sorry to interrupt, Joe.
Yeah,
that is a really, really good point.
Which one?
The answer is a local guy right out of New Haven. When I look at these right now, Kovalev, Beterbiev, or all-time, Ezra Charles, Archie Moore, Spinks, Roy Jones, my God, Kovalev, Tarver, Hill, Bob Foster, Adonis Stevenson, all of these guys were punchers. All huge punchers, you're right. The last great light heavyweight who wasn't a huge puncher, who was a right-hander who fought out of a southpaw stance. He beat B-Hop twice. He beat Johnson. Chad Dawson, right out of New Haven, is probably the last not huge puncher that was undisputed light heavyweight champ. Went down and lost to Andre Ward and kind of fizzled out. John Pascal hit him hard a few times, but I would have thought there were more of those. So you're right. You're right. Light heavyweights, if you can't bang, if you don't have that one punch knockout power, it's going to be tough to make that list. Yeah, I like it. I'll take it. Circle gets a square.
I'll let that ride.
Yeah. No, and I went on the all-time list looking like.
I like that. Yeah. Again, listen, I like Vlasov a lot. He's a really good fighter. And I mean, when I say how does he win fights, I mean, again, it seems like it's a lot more work. And in that division, it's going to take Unfortunately, when you're in a fight like that, it could be a draw. That eye test. Well, geez, man, it really seemed like Smith really banged him up in the fight. I'm going to give it to him. Again,
he's the only one in the top. The top 10 right now. Tell me who can bang: Kovalev, Beterbiev, Joe Smith, Jesse Hart, Vlasov, Jean Pascal, Elder Alvarez, Badu Jack, Gilberto Ramirez. Only one of those guys would you kind of want to stand in front of. One.
Yeah.
It's Vlasov. Yeah, you're right. He's the only one up there that can't bang. And when you can't, you're giving away that extra edge every time. That thing that Joe Smith beat him by, even though you would have said he would have won, you're giving that away every time. And that's the great equalizer, they call it in our sport.
Yeah, but in MMA, the great equalizer is the wrestling game. And boy, oh boy, was it a great equalizer in Kevin Holland versus Marvin Vettori. Same thing happened a couple weeks ago with Brunson. Vettori just did it, in my opinion, even fiercer. Joe, your boy Vettori wants a title shot. Does he get it?
All right. Before we go there, I want to say this because Jared and I talked about this yesterday. I don't think this is the worst thing that ever happened to Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland can't wrestle. Everybody else in this division is a banger and will want to stand toe-to-toe and kick with Kevin Holland. So he still has life in this division. I want to make that abundantly clear.
Can he beat Adesanya?
Can he beat Adesanya? Right now, definitely not. He's got to sharpen his game. And as I said last week, and I mean this, and again, I'm a fan of Kevin Holland. As much as I like Marvin Vettori, Jace, I really like Kevin Holland a lot. I love a guy who can talk smack. You got to back it up, though. I mean, this is a guy who does kung fu, who's got a black belt in Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and just doesn't want to be on the ground and fight. Get serious about your business, dude. It doesn't take much to learn how to wrestle. I mean, look at Ngannou.
Yeah.
He went out and he learned it. He's a big, weird monster, and he did it, and he learned it. He didn't want to use it, but he learned it. Just do that. Dude, even when Conor fought Khabib, like the first takedown, Conor did everything right. It was, maybe, right? And then just before the second takedown, Khabib caught him with a left, and he rocked McGregor's world, and then that was pretty much how that went. So I think Kevin Holland's going to be okay. But, dude, learn how to stuff takedowns because there you go, Tony. Adesanya, Till, Cannonier, Whittaker, all guys you can stand and bang with.
And styles make fights.
Absolutely.
Holland
what you said yesterday,
those fights.
Could Holland go toe-to-toe with Adesanya? Sure he could. He's going to win? Probably not, but I'd love to watch it. And I'd love to
do a lot better than he did against Vettori.
He absolutely would. Now, let's talk about Marvin Vettori. Anybody who didn't think that this was better than the fight that Brunson had with Holland, you're kidding yourself. And so after the fight, Brunson suggested Vettori owed him some of that purse money for the blueprint. Calm down, big guy. This guy did it. I mean, the most takedowns in a fight in middleweight history. I mean, come on. He had more takedowns in this fight than he had in his career. At one point, Holland was egging him on to throw punches, and Vettori laughed and took him down again. Shut your mouth, clown. But here's what I'm thinking, right? Look, if Whittaker beats
this isn't stand up.
If Whittaker beats Gastelum, Whittaker's going to get another crack at Adesanya, and I think he deserves it. So, where does that leave my man Marvin Vettori? Well, he hasn't beaten a top 5 guy yet, and he's ranked 3rd now. You know who else hasn't done that? Paulo Costa. Why don't we put these two together, number 3 and number 4, for the number 1 contender spot?
Can he fight Brunson instead? I like the narrative here.
Nah. Why would Vettori take a wrestler at this point?
Fair point. This is
me, if I'm Vettori, I want to fight bangers now.
This is a problem I have with MMA. Now, let's pretend I don't know the sport, okay, and I'm scoring at home. And I'm doing all these other, 15, 30, 40 game in tennis. That shit doesn't make sense to me either. But I was taking some notes. And assuming I don't understand how the game works, can you guys explain to me how Kevin Holland scored 44 points? What did he get 44 points for?
Making question to ask.
Because I was doing some math. And I can't figure out where he listen. Total, utter domination. And this is what happens. This is what happens when you don't go, I need to go back to the lab. That's a real thing. Go tighten your game up because there's just you tripped over the same stuff and fell in the same sin. You got blisters on your feet and you didn't get new shoes and went right back on the same trail. And they got worse and they were still there and you fell in all the same spots and yeah. And I don't think he needed Brunson. I think they got in there and they got to dancing a little bit and he went, oh, wow, grappling's easy and then I can just throw him down. Oh, wow, and then I could just hold him here and rough him up.
Yes.
He didn't even have to watch the Brunson fight because it didn't look like that was – watch the first round. Watch the beginning. It didn't look like that was necessarily his plan. But they did what they are built to do, and Vettori found a spot that Holland couldn't keep up, a blind spot, and that was the beginning of the end. If I figure out I can hit you with a jab or make you move with a feint, you better clean that up fast because we will go all of however many rounds it is with feints and jabs, and you'll never see me do anything else. Vince Lombardi had 8 plays in his playbook, 5 runs, 3 passes. Now they have hundreds. But he figured if we do these 8 plays right and make them work, run it again. Remember your coach? Run it again. Make it work. Yeah, so this was something that worked, and he just did what worked. It fell right into each other.
By the way, one caveat to my promotional plans here. If Gastelum beats Whittaker, he's ranked 8th. I don't think Gastelum automatically gets Adesanya, in which case I'd certainly think that Vettori would be the clear-cut guy to face Adesanya. So
right with that.
You know who Vittori's rooting for.
Oh, yeah. And we'll see.
Listen, fight IQ is really important. Again, I love Kevin Holland, but he's not serious, and he's kind of an idiot. I mean, if I slapped you in the face, Jace, 10 times in a row, wouldn't you put your left hand up at some point to stop getting slapped? He seems like confused. It's the same thing over and over again, dude. You can't figure that out? Seriously?
And man, I'm always trying to put the fight game into life. And you just described exactly what I describe when I talk about cuddle the bear with scrub scraps. Because when we see that in life, we go, man, you're making the same stupid decisions over and over again. You were like built and wired funny, and now you're falling into all of that same stuff, man. And it's easy to see from the outside, but for people, we're all, that's kind of how we live. Get to the lab, really do your homework, because this is what will happen to you over and over again. If Holland doesn't learn this, and I know if I'm going to fight Kevin Holland, I'm not training to box. I'm going to start grappling bigger guys, figure out how to throw them on the ground and hold them down, because that's how you beat Kevin Holland. I don't need to work on my game. I just need to work on his weakness. And that's what he should be working on too. 3 weeks ain't enough time.
Yeah, I mean, the best example for someone, like you see growth in MMA is when Holly Holm lost the bantamweight belt to Miesha Tate. She took a picture of on like her Instagram with her in like a white belt saying, all right, time to get back to work. Then you fast forward to a fight like her against Megan Anderson, where she takes her to the ground and dominates her for all 3 rounds. Like, you have to see that growth. And I mean, I understand it was only a couple weeks and it was a short turnaround, but there was still zero growth, zero real attempt at growth from Holland this fight.
It was worse.
Yeah,
it was literally worse somehow.
I mean, Vettori.
Well, Katie Taylor, and Holly Holm. Let's put them on one side, and then on the other side, we'll put Kevin Holland and a girl named Ronda Rousey. Good fighter, but never able to make the adjustment that you can't box. So don't do that. Just headstrong and the baddest person in there every time, and then you're not working on. There's holes, and the gaps in your game are being exploited every fight, and that's where Kevin Holland is. You're going to have to change something. Whereas Holm adjusted and 26-time world boxing champion to MMA head kick Ronda Rousey knockout, adjusting. Katie Taylor was like the Ireland's best soccer player, girls and boys, as a child. There was a French Olympian basketball player who went on to play softball, who was in The Ultimate Fighter. Her name was Jessica. She was awesome, but she was just a gamer. She was going to fill those gaps, and she did it in her life, and she did it in her sport, whatever sport that was. And Kevin Holland hasn't done that. Go home, get to the lab, fill your gaps, take 3 months, 3 years, not 3 weeks, and fill the gaps in your game so that the next person doesn't come up and do the exact same thing to you.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully Kevin Holland can take a break, realize and learn from his mistakes, because he obviously hasn't. I mean, obviously with the short turnaround.
Again, he's got a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Just practice that, dude. Just work on that. That should be like a big help.
But where did he get the black belt? Like Sears,
JC Penney.
Yeah, he didn't get it from Hoist Gracie. I'll tell you that. I mean, good Lord. I don't think they just hand those belts out to people. You gotta work for it to become a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It's not, like in karate, you got to do tests and you do forms, and that's how you graduate to the next level. In Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, to move up, you have to consistently beat people that are the same belt as you.
Dude,
I mean, again, if I
some
do
of these
Brazilian
guys, after
Jiu-Jitsu,
they get out of the fight game, they start using drugs and stuff. The black belts get a little hokey. You never know where they end up. Cereal boxes and stuff, whatever.
If I knew Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I would beat up everybody I meet.
I
just would. Yeah. Oh, everybody.
That's it.
Everybody. You instant always. That's what I would do.
Get choked out.
Yeah.
He's at a red light like, hey, pal. Where you headed? Want to roll?
I don't get it.
Right. But, I mean, we'll see what comes from Kevin Holland. And, I mean, we'll see from later tonight what's going to happen next with Vettori. But before we get to the fights tonight, we got a Who You Got. But first, we got a little message from Rocky Hill Accountants.
Rocky Hill Accountants offers a unique, low-pressure approach to professional and personal services, which is why they have an excellent client retention rate and are extremely proud of the high-quality services that their firm provides. The executive team at Rocky Hill Accountants has over 35 years of combined experience in income tax preparation, bookkeeping, accounting, and IT crypto tax. They specialize in individual income tax preparation, as well as trusts, estates, and gift tax returns. The tax deadline for individuals is May 17th. If you're one of the 50 million Americans who still hasn't filed, visit RockyHillAccountants.com.
Thank you, Rocky Hill Accountants, for that. Make sure you check out Rocky Hill Accountants for all your accounting needs. But, all right. So the big fight this weekend is Jake Paul and Ben Askren. That's the one everyone's talking about. And showcases to one MMA guy coming into the boxing ring, and then Jake Paul, who he's a YouTuber. But I hear a lot in this build-up about Jake Paul's wrestling in high school and how he was an all-county middle linebacker or some bull crap like that. So that leads me to the who you got, and great that Jared's back because I think he alluded to it a little bit earlier. What is the non-combat sport background that would be best for success in the ring or cage? Jared, I know you talked a little bit a couple of minutes ago about Katie Taylor playing soccer.
I think hockey's the easy answer. I thought about lacrosse. That movie Dodgeball, I mean, some of those guys were pretty tenacious. But soccer, if I had to pick one background, and I'll tell you why this is the right answer. Because I've seen football players come to the gym with zero experience and they get beat up. I've seen basketball players come to the gym with zero experience and they get beat up. I've seen every kind of athlete come into the gym. They all get beat up. But for some reason, the soccer players are able to use their legs to survive and do things that nobody else can. Stamina, consistency, footwork. There's
and
something
balance.
else there.
Footwork and balance.
Yeah.
It is, and yeah, that's a great. I think soccer.
Are you going to say ballet?
I am. I'm actually going to say dance, ballet or Eastern European dancing. There's a lot of. It's about balance and footwork. Look at Lomachenko. Look at Shevchenko. A lot of these Eastern European fighters have dance backgrounds. I'll never forget Lomachenko. It says when he fights, he's got music in his head.
Yeah.
And you don't know what the rhythm is. Only he does. And I remember when I heard that, I thought, oh, this guy's playing chess and these other fools are playing checkers. I mean, this guy's doing it way up here and you're all over here.
You ever jog, Joe? You ever like twice a week, jog a mile? Have you?
Do I strike you as a jogger?
No. But has there ever been a section of your life where you did that? I'm sure you've had ever constant exercise. Let's say, maybe.
Yes. I mean, I played athletics. I mean, right through high school. So yeah. I mean, I did all the training. So yeah, I've certainly been through it, but I didn't like it or want to do it.
There's a game you kind of play with your brain when you're training like that, where you get tired, and you're focused on the tired, and you're focused on your body, and there's this whole workout, and then you start to condition yourself, and that focus on your body and your conditioning and the tweaks and the weaknesses, it starts to quiet down. And you're able to focus on these other things while you're doing this intense activity that you ought to have all of this. You're now conditioned for it. So there's this, Roshan talked about it last week during the spotlight, kind of this eye of the storm type of thing that happens where it all just clears out and we're dancing. Yeah, I love that, Joe. Wow, that's 2 today, Joe.
Damn, you guys. I went. I chose football, but more specifically, the defensive line. Look at who is the most successful athlete to come out. I hate to say it, but right now it's Greg Hardy. No one's had that success at another sport and then come over to the UFC. I guess Brock Lesnar, but I mean, that doesn't, I don't know. Those are all combat sports. But the thing with defensive linemen, and I don't understand why there isn't a lot more defensive linemen, people with defensive line background. Because, I mean, if you talk about the UFC, a lot of the former football players, like you got the Eric Anders, the linebacker from Alabama. The D-line, with the hand fighting you learn and you do with the D-line, I feel like that would transition very well into throwing punches, as well as like all the leverage and speed and knowing timing and all that stuff. I just feel like that transitions very, very well to combat sports. And we haven't seen a lot of that crossover besides Greg.
I can't get down with that one. Is Greg Hardy or Your top guy, like I have Katie Taylor, he's got Shevchenko, you've got Greg Hardy. I mean, D-line. Let me tell you a quick story, and I'm gonna name drop. I hope I don't offend anybody here. I'm sure it's screw it. So this is an impression, ready? Of a D1 lineman. All state, all country, all world, woo! Boxing gym. About to be a two-sport athlete. Huh? Think I couldn't be a champion in this shit? Chris Baker is his name. Look him up from CT. Yeah, two-sport athlete. Who wants to do something? John Scully got in the ring with this massive man. And a few rounds of and Scully. No punishment. He let him punish himself, and then he laid down on the ground after a few rounds. Yeah. And Scully leaned down to him and said, "Hey, I'm going to need you to get up and get out of the ring because there's boxers that need to use it." This guy, is he still in the NFL? Chris Baker is the defensive lineman that I'm talking about still in the NFL, because I know he went from defensive tackle, currently a free agent. Hampton University, grew up in New Britain, 6'2", 320 pounds. And it was game time for 5'11", 185 John Scully. It was playtime. This was a kindergartner messing with a graduate, a post-grad. It was bad.
See, but that's more an ego thing than what background is suited well for. But if that guy came in and actually gave a crap about boxing and didn't have a huge ego, I think he'd be great because of what he has.
But I'm saying he figured that football background was going to be enough first step in the gym, and he would have been better off with soccer because he couldn't move. He had no stamina. He couldn't get out of the way of anything, and he couldn't land anything. And the guy who was boxing was twice his age and half his size. Just doesn't translate well.
Let me give you the scouting report on Greg Hardy as a football player. Hardy is underrated in terms of strength, has great full body strength to anchor, bull rush, hold his ground, and makes tackles in traffic. Is better at using his speed and agility to outmaneuver defenders. He does not have strength to bull rush or overpower tackles. Does a great job of keeping outside contained and can fight off blocks with his hands. Is a fighter with his arms and hands. So Greg Hardy was sort of an exceptional defensive lineman in terms of his hand movement and his speed. I think if Greg Hardy has an issue, it's the footwork. And again, that's why I think dance, I think soccer, I think any of the sports that where balance and movement is footwork is key are, again, I mean, Greg Hardy, I'm surprised there's not more, especially the defensive linemen of today's NFL, which are, 6'3", 260-pound guys, built like Ngannou, and they can run 4.5 40s. That kind of athlete, I think could do some damage, but I don't know how many of those guys you're going to find at 24, 25 years old who are switching from football at an elite level to MMA. Who's doing that? I mean, if you've got that kind of eliteness, you're talking about a handful of guys in the world. If you're 25, you're probably in the NFL, making them, tons of money. Why? So again, I mean, late in your career, you want to go fight in the UFC when you're 33 and a free agent? I don't know if that's where I'd want to go make my UFC debut, is all I'm saying. So I think until you start getting more of these new age defensive linemen where they become more a dime a dozen, where you just have these big, long, strong athletes, and there's not enough room in the NFL for everybody, then I think that's certainly a position directly from the NFL, Jace. I'll give you that. That's definitely a position I could see where guys would come and be able to compete professionally. as opposed to, say, offensive linemen, who generally aren't in great shape. Or wide receivers. Sure, again, great footwork, but don't have the athleticism.
Lesnar wrestled in college. Was a D lineman for.
I was going to say he was a D lineman as well, wasn't he, in football? So
he did about preseason with the Vikings. That's all.
Matt Mitrione in Purdue.
That would be the best position out of football to come from, I would think, as far as the transition. But again, I think there's so few guys at that elite level that you wouldn't leave your sport in its prime to go do another one, especially where would you have gotten fight experience before you get to the NFL? So now, again, what do you like? You're 28, you're 29, you're like, heck with the NFL, too violent. I want to fight. That makes more sense. I don't know why you're doing that. That's never happened before.
It's a boxing show. You got to punch him.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, again, as far as NFL players, I don't know that you're going to see that anytime soon. Again, I think for all practical and intents and purposes, I think anything that requires footwork and balance is going to help you when it comes to fighting.
So here, this is what I'd want to do. I'm asking you guys, pop quiz, try to be honest. Try to be honest, okay? We're going to find our bigger dancers, our top dancers. We're going to get the bigger ones. We need some bigger soccer players too, because Jay said D linemen, right? So we're going to get the smaller D linemen, but just randomly line them up in weight classes. You're taking the dancers, Joe. You're taking the defensive linemen, and I'm taking the soccer players. Do you guys really think when we put them in a ring together that your guys are going to stand a chance? Again, the soccer players are just going to be person for person a little bit tougher than the dancers and have much more stamina than the football players.
Slow down.
Aaron Donald is knocking everyone out.
Slow down, bro. If you think that my dancers are a bunch of like toe tappers in like white,
I didn't say that.
Because
they're not soccer players, though,
bro. If my dancers are gonna go out in public and tell you they're dancing, they're already looking to fight. They're already ready. You want to say something about my dancing? Let's go. I'll take my dancers any day of the week.
This is the Sharks and the Jets.
Oh, damn. But yeah, I mean, I like that. I mean, before we move on, I do have to mention James Johnson in the NBA, undefeated amateur MMA fighter as well. So, I mean, there is opportunities. People have done it. So, I mean, everything brings something different to the table that something else can. So
the best argument, though, I think, is if I go looking for soccer players, I'm going to find Katie Taylor at the top of the list. If Joe goes looking for dancers, he's got Shevchenko and Loma. Tell me that defensive line transition. Are you riding with Eric Anders and Greg Hardy? Brock Lesnar in high school? I mean, what? I don't know, man. I think I'd like those other ones: hockey, lacrosse, tap dancer, Sugar Ray Robinson. Damn.
Yeah. So when I say I'm bringing the dancers, I'm bringing Sugar Ray, the greatest of all time. So I think I win now over you and Pele.
Oh,
you, Pele, and Mia Hamm. I don't know any other soccer players by name.
No, I mean, Jared would for sure have all the Brazilians, right, in MMA.
Oh, of course.
That's the real scary part. But all right, let's get on to fights tonight. Starting off with this. Let's get this done and over with. Ben Askren, he's fighting some guy. I think he filmed some stuff for the internet. And Jake Paul. Jared, what's going to happen in this fight?
You're asking me?
Yeah.
You're asking.
Hold on,
I
wait.
don't.
Let's have Joe talk.
Ben Askren is 36 years old, 5'10", with a 72-inch reach and a record of 19-2-1 with 6 knockouts and 6 submissions. Askren started wrestling in high school before going on to become one of the most accomplished college wrestlers of all time. A 2-time NCAA Division I champion for the University of Missouri, he went 45-0 in his junior year and 42-0 his senior year, winning the Dan Hodge Trophy and ending his career as a 4-time All-American with a record of 153-8. He also won gold medals in the Pan American, National, and World Championships. He qualified for the 2008 Olympic team but lost to Cuba's Ivan Fundora. In February of 2009, he made his MMA debut with a first-round knockout, and in 2010, Askren won the Bellator Fighting Championships Season 2 welterweight tournament, beating Ryan Thomas twice, once by submission and once by decision, and then dominated Dan Hornbuckle. He then went on to dominate champion Lyman Good and defended his belt against Nick Thompson, Jay Harian, Douglas Lima, and Andrei Koreshkov. He then joined ONE FC, winning the welterweight title by first-round knockout over champion Nobututsu Suzuki. After 5 title defenses, he made his UFC debut with a bulldog choke submission of Robbie Lawler. On July 6, 2019, after a heated build-up to their fight, Askren was violently knocked out in 5 seconds by rival Jorge Masvidal, who dispatched him with a flying knee. After getting the Fight of the Night award in a losing effort to Damian Maia, Askren announced his retirement from mixed martial arts. However, after months of back-and-forth trash talk over social media, he decided to come back for one more fight with YouTuber Jake Paul. Jake Paul is 24 years old. He's 5'10" with a 76-inch reach and a record of 2-0 with 2 knockouts. From Cleveland, Ohio, Paul and his older brother rose to internet fame on the now-defunct site Vine, where he built a massive following of 5.3 million followers through prank and stunt videos. Throughout his career, he's been known for becoming embroiled in numerous controversies, both in his personal and professional lives, leading to a beef with internet personality KSI and his brother, Deji Olatunji. On August 25, 2018, the Paul brothers took on the Olatunji brothers in exhibition fights held in Manchester Arena, with Jake winning via 5th-round TKO. Originally calling out singer Chris Brown for his professional debut, he instead settled on fellow YouTuber Anson Gibb. Paul won that fight, stopping Gibb halfway through round 1. On September 12th of last year, Paul faced professional basketball player Nate Robinson on the undercard of the Roy Jones Jr. vs. Mike Tyson fight. At the 1-minute 20-second mark of round 2, Paul knocked Robinson out cold with a brutal right cross. From there, he began to campaign on social media for fights with real fighters, at first calling out Dylan Dennis, then Conor McGregor, until finally getting Ben Askren to accept his challenge.
All right. Thank you for that, Joe. Now, Jared, you have been... Oh, you're muted, Joe.
That's the worst thing I've ever created in my life.
Spend all that time talking about Jake Paul. Be really rough. But Jared, you have been a big Paul brother sympathizer on this show. So what do you think of this fight?
I appreciate you not using the word fan, I have to say. And it's more just that I support the idea that there's levels to this, and let's iron out what the levels are. We need to stop calling this just pro boxing with everything else. You know, even that Rodriguez fight. Like the tiers are so well defined and such a stark difference between them. There are Chris Bakers every day that walk into gyms and think they can be competitive because they won a street fight, because I knocked somebody out behind the bar, and now I'm ready to start my career. And no idea what's going to happen literally all the time. You stand in those gyms and the guys walk in, and all the people in the know kind of chuckle to themselves about what's about to happen. That's how different the levels are from first walking into, I was telling a couple buddies of mine the other day, in every gym, every boxing gym out there, there's a 12, 13, 14-year-old kid named Josh that will kick the shit out of all three of us at the same time. Every gym has some little kid that will just smoke any regular person. That any regular person would look at and be like, that kid don't want it with me. I don't want to hurt anybody in here today, coach. That's what I said. That's what I said when little Matt Remillard came hopping over. Hey, listen, buddy, I don't know. Maybe you don't know who I am. You know? Bad news. Don't be that guy, you know? But that's the thing, is that there's levels to it, and nobody understands that until they've actually stood in that position, until you get in touch with those, until you're Chris Baker crawling out of the ring. That's when you figure it out. So I'm a fan of setting up the levels, and this is obviously a level below, but stay away from this fight. If you're betting, if you're picking, stay away from this fight. The odds are fairly close. The over-under 6, it could go the distance. Somebody could get stopped. Askren just got knocked out with that flying knee. He just replaced both knees and retired, and everything's wrong about this guy. And Jake Paul's a YouTuber. So how for real is it? I'm taking Jake Paul by decision, but I wouldn't put a penny on any of those outcomes because I don't know. Not enough information. I bet the numbers, not the fighters, and we don't have enough information on either one of the fighters.
Jorge Masvidal's predicting Jake Paul's going to kick Ben Askren's ass.
I bet he is.
I read a whole dude. Masvidal's running his mouth about this like crazy, and he's like, Jake
First
Paul.
time I saw Masvidal was he was fighting Kimbo Slice in a backyard.
Yeah.
Yes,
That was my first experience ever. I'm like, who is this guy? To still be watching him act the fool out. I love this guy. That guy. He's one of those guys that's kind of. They're like the Diaz brothers, you know. When my wife first saw the Diaz brothers, she's like, "These do not strike me as guys you'd be a fan of, because most guys like this, you're just not a fan of." Now she loves them, you know. But this is in that same mold. Masvidal,
by the way, same with the
boy.
Diaz brothers. I at first didn't like him, and the more I watched them, I'm like, no, I do love these guys a lot. Yeah, a lot.
Masvidal's great.
This is I like that Jake Paul's fighting an actual fighter this time. I think that's a step up in the world. I think that at least makes it competitive. I mean, Ben Askren does have a couple knockouts in his career. It's not like he's never knocked anybody out. Not exactly known as much of a puncher, obviously. But he does know how to fight. Dana White pointed out, Ben Askren's fought a ton of actual fights against actual people who trained and fought other fighters. So I don't know.
Can't replace that.
Right? That. Like there's a, Ben Askren, again, while he might struggle because look, Jake Paul is trying to take this at least somewhat serious. I'll give this kid that much credit. He is training. He does know how to fight a little bit. Again, as Masvidal said, is he beating Zab Judah? No. Would he get destroyed? Yeah. But is he legit enough to beat the shit out of Ben Askren? Definitely. That's Masvidal line for line for you. So
well, and I wouldn't be surprised if the full-time athlete, if the kid with the college wrestling career and all of that experience finds a way to pull out a sporting event against Jake Paul. I wouldn't be shocked if Askren wins. Like I said, I wouldn't want to put a penny on knockout, decision, Paul or Askren. Nope. Steer clear of this one. No idea.
Let me ask you this. Just not for betting or any other purpose. Do you think that Jake Paul has the fight skills to knock Ben Askren out?
Yes.
I think anyone can knock anyone out.
No.
Especially
that's
after you've been knocked out like that.
Yeah, I don't think, Jace, I don't think that's true. And I mean, you could technically say that about anybody, but I mean, squared up in a fight. No. Squared up in a fight is different than, can anyone knock anyone out? Yes. If Jared's not looking and I run across the room and throw a right and he thinks I'm going to hug him, yeah, I could knock him out.
But
does that count? No.
Anyone can land a punch.
That's tough, though, man. To act like I think that's what you're trying to say, Joe. If I'm facing you and you're trying to land that punch,
Jared, right? If you and I
run,
squared up and I'm like, I'm going to punch Jared out, it would. I mean, maybe I don't know how long it would take me before I was able to land one on him.
if we were in one of those little diaper changing pods or something, maybe. But as long, as I have a little room to move around,
I'm trying to figure out the scenario where, I mean, again, if I'm not throwing a sucker punch, how am I doing this?
That'd be really hard to do. Well, and yeah, there's other people, I don't want to name any names, but where I'll stick my chin out blindfolded. And nope. Probably not gonna happen.
Think about how many punches Vlasov threw at Smith. I don't. Did he ever hit him square in the face? I don't know. He never got his knees to buckle. So the idea that you can knock anybody out in theory is true, but again, if you're talking about straight up two guys fighting, suddenly the odds are going really down on can you knock that guy out? I think what I mean to say more specifically is, do you think Jake Paul's got boxing skills enough to where he can find a way to I mean, like what he did to Nate Robinson. Do you see a scenario where he hits Ben Askren with a punch of that
2 years ago,
drops him?
a year and a half, 2 years ago, prior to the Masvidal stoppage, I would have said that Jake Paul loses this fight and doesn't have what it takes to knock Askren out. But as we stand now, that's the last time you were knocked out. I understand how brain function works. And he's going to be easier to turn off. Do you remember Chuck Liddell at the end of his career? It was so sad to watch. Every time somebody touched him, he used to be that guy. Just took him.
Strong breeze started taking Liddell out at the end.
It was weird, and it's because you get those mileage. It's like throwing something at a wall. And once it starts to break and fracture, that's like literally what's going on in your brain, by the way. Once you have those fractures start, it gets easier and easier to put something through it, And that's so how much of that does Askren have left? How much of those walls are still there? And how much of a punch is it going to take to knock him out? When a guy gets touched like that, you never know until after the next fight if they have any chin left. And that's the only reason I say yes, is because of the way he got touched last time. Like, maybe
you got touched by Masvidal with a knee. Paul knocked
Jake
out
Paul with a glove is a little
okay.
Fair point.
You see what I mean? So wait, hold on. Am I getting this right? Both of you guys are picking Jake Paul?
I'm taking Jake Paul because I just don't
Masvidal too much.
I like Masvidal too much to take. No, I'm telling you. I just my thought is, look, my brother just put in the comments, if Askren gets caught, he can't use the wrestling, which is what he would do in a real fight. So now you get hit hard by a guy you don't think can hurt you, and he hurts you. Where do your instincts go, Jared?
If I'm Nate Robinson, straight to the crossover.
Exactly. And that doesn't help. That doesn't help in a fist fight. And I just wonder, again, if Askren, I mean, there's one thing to clench. Is he going to be clenching Paul around his waist? You know what I mean?
And yes, I'd rather get hit by Nate Robinson with a glove on than by Masvidal's knee. I mean, fair point, Jace. You definitely make a fair point about a strength of opposition there. And like I said, prior to that, I just sent Askren across the board, even with the stoppage maybe. But where we are today, it's hard to know what he's got left, dude. He just did both knees and got knocked out in one of the greatest knockouts we've ever seen. Who knows what's left there? You're picking Askren?
What? Yes, I'm picking Askren.
I'm asking you now.
What the hell? Of course I'm picking Askren. Jake Paul's a freaking YouTuber. He knocked out a retired NBA player. How is that?
Got tired doing it.
Ben Askren is a former Bellator welterweight champion. Like, what is going on here? I don't care age or anything. I'm giving the respect to the man that deserves respect, and Ben Askren is going to win. Holy crap. Okay. Ooh.
I mean, maybe. Listen,
Maybe. You guys have distinctly different passion levels when it comes to this topic. Chase like Ben Askren, he's gonna win.
I don't know.
I can't deal with these calls in my life this much.
Listen, if your question is, Joe, who do you want to win? That is a much different conversation than who do I think will win.
That's not what we've been asking.
Yeah. So that's why I say I would love. I mean, I want to see Jake Paul get beaten down badly. I just don't know that Ben Askren is the guy to do it. Askren, by the way, 6 knockouts in his career. He has knocked out 6 guys in his career. Obviously, he's not a knockout guy. So, but he still has. I think
that's what I want here. If I do take a bet, I think that's the one I want. Fight goes the distance. Over 5.5 is the bet.
Yeah, I like that.
I steer clear of it.
But I went on my spiel about how Jake Paul sucks. But really, the one real thing that like sold me on this fight for Askren was a couple weeks ago. They did a little interview. They did a press conference. They faced off, and I don't remember what happened, but somehow Jake Paul ended up hitting Askren. And it looked, I mean, I can only tell with my eyes and the camera. It looked like that was a real shot. Jake Paul wasn't holding back at all. Right in the stomach, and Askren just went on doing his own thing. So from that is the real obviously Askren has a lot of these accolades in the octagon, and Jake Paul has nothing besides knocking out a former basketball player. So with all of that and what I saw from that press conference, I'm very confident in Ben Askren going into tonight.
I just did a little more research on Ben Askren, and all 6 of his knockouts were TKOs, where the fights were stopped. So he's never physically turned the lights out on anybody.
And he will tonight. Let's go, Ben Askren.
I hope so. I'm just like Jared said, I ain't putting any money on that.
Nope. That's a good one to stay away from.
Yeah. I wish he was fighting Masvidal. I'll tell you the truth. I'd love to see Jake Paul fight Masvidal.
You know, we have another fight just like that on that card. We didn't list it, but Frank Mir and Steve Cunningham. You've got an older boxer who knows how much is left versus an MMA fighter who's not a boxer. So, yeah, conventional wisdom, take the boxer, sure. On the other hand, these are big guys, and the boxer's 38 years old.
Yeah. But all right, let's stop with this nonsense and talk some real nonsense with my man Demetrius Andrade taking on Liam Williams. Let me break it down for you.
Demetrius Andrade, the 33-year-old, is 6'1" with a 73.5-inch reach and is undefeated at 29-0 with 18 knockouts. From Providence, Rhode Island, Andrade began training at the age of 6 and went on to have a very successful amateur career, winning the U.S. Amateur Championship and the Golden Gloves twice apiece. Initially struggling at the international level, he won a silver medal at the Pan Am Games and a gold medal at the 2007 World Amateur Championships. He defeated Keith Thurman to make the Olympic team, but lost to Kim Jung-ju in the quarterfinals. After compiling an amateur record of 55-10, he turned pro in 2008 with a second-round knockout victory. After going 19-0, he won the vacant WBO junior middleweight belt by defeating Vanes Martirosyan via split decision. He defended the belt 3 times before defeating Jack Colque by split decision for the WBA title. In 2018, Andrade defeated Walter Katondakwa via 12-round decision to claim the WBO middleweight belt. Unable to secure unification bouts with either Triple G or Canelo Alvarez, he defended the belt 3 times, including knockouts over Luke Keeler and Arthur Arkovov. Now, Andrade's opponent Saturday night, Liam Williams, is 28 years old, standing 5'10" with a 70-inch reach, and has a record of 23-2-1 with 18 knockouts. From Church Village, Wales, the Machine started his amateur career at the age of 9 and went 44-5, winning Welsh titles before turning pro in 2011 at the age of 18. After going 11-0-1, he knocked out Michael Lomax to lay claim to the Commonwealth Junior Middleweight title, and in his next fight won the vacant British title via second-round knockout over Chris Carslaw. After 3 defenses, he fought Liam Smith for the WBO Junior Middleweight title, losing via 9th-round TKO. In his next fight, he fought a rematch with Smith, losing by majority decision. After knockouts of Joe Moldener and Mark Heffron, he defeated France's Kareem Akor by second-round knockout to win the WBC silver belt. He's only been able to fight twice since then, with a 5th-round knockout of Alantez Fox and a first-round knockout of Andrew Robinson.
The names are really hard for those.
Oh, yeah. That's why I gave it to you, bud.
But, all right. Demetrius Andrade taking on Liam Williams. Liam Williams is great. I just think Andrade is I think he really is the future of this middleweight division. I like how he matches up with guys like in the upper echelon with the Triple Gs and the Canelos. I think he can really give them fights. And I like Andrade a lot.
Yeah, look, you're not wrong, man. And it seems to me like nobody really wants a piece of Andrade, which is weird because he's got a belt, and you think some of these other fellas like Triple G and Charlo would be looking to get a piece of that action. Nobody wants to unify against Andrade, so I definitely think there's something to this guy. I think he's going to dominate Williams. He really wanted Billy Joe Saunders, another guy who doesn't seem to want a piece of him. So, go out there, take care of business, and we'll see what's down the line for Andrade.
I got to bring you guys through the numbers here. Wow. So Demetrius Andrade, 29-0. I've explained to you guys the ELO rankings on BoxRec.
Yep.
And how those work. So all things taken into consideration, Andrade's best wins for 98 points, Muradasyan, and then 47. So 47 and 98 are his best wins by the numbers. On the other hand, Williams has 2 losses, Liam Smith both times, 159 and 165. So compared to 98, he's losing to the best guy either one of them has fought twice. His draw, Tyan Booth, .538 is the guy's ranking. Demetrius Andrade beat somebody with a 98.35. And you have a draw to somebody with a .538. His best win, Mark Heffron, 14 is the BoxRec ELO ranking on that guy. His best win is 14. Andrade has wins over guys 47 and 98. And you have a draw to a .538. This is Andrade all day. All day.
Yeah.
I honestly think Andrade is a middleweight version of Terrence Crawford. I feel like he's just not getting the respect he deserves. He's very, very good, and he is very kind of interesting. Like it's a hard puzzle to figure out when you're in the ring with him.
He didn't get the fight when there was a reason to fight him.
Right.
Canelo got the fight with Floyd because there was a reason to fight Canelo because he was younger and still coming up. They let this guy fully develop before he ever got that fight. And now that he hasn't got that fight, he's got no belt. He's got no notable wins. Why would anybody fight him? This guy makes sense to duck. As much as I hate to say it, I like him. He's a local guy. We've met a few times, been in the same gyms. Huge fan of Andrade. There's a reason to duck this guy. He's a monster. This is the boogeyman of that division for sure.
Yeah, interestingly enough, Triple G just turned 39, doesn't have any fights lined up. Neither does Ryota Murata, who's another one of the belt holders in this division. Jermall Charlo will be fighting Juan Montiel. Montiel's coming off a first-round loss over a washed-up James Kirkland. This is a guy nobody wants to fight, but he's not a big enough name. He needs to start getting some big-time wins here, but he can't get anybody to fight him. So he's kind of in a tough spot here, and I think I think Demetrius got to go out there and put on a show. You gotta knock Liam Williams out. You gotta just take this fight to him and show everybody what everybody's actually afraid of. And then when the fight's over, start saying some names. Start calling out Triple G and Charlo and whomever else you think might be worthy of your challenge, because he's going to have a really, really, really hard. I mean, again, this is a guy nobody wants to fight. So how do you get to the next level if nobody will fight you?
No.
Well, Williams has never been stopped either. One lost by knockout. It was a cut though. Double laceration to the right eyelid, unable to continue, 9 of 12. So this is a guy that hasn't been stopped. If you can, after Liam Smith couldn't twice, and he won a judge in one of those fights too. To be fair to Williams, he can fight, but if Andrade can stop him here, we gotta stop ducking this guy. We gotta get him a fight.
Andrade's not gonna stop him, because Andrade, I remember his last fight. I think he was or a fight before that, he started getting booed because he was just so dominant, and he wasn't really doing that much. He wasn't really being the aggressor, but
Selecki, I remember that.
Yeah, and he was on the mic and he said, I don't care what you guys think about me. You guys want me to go in and risk getting knocked out, but I'm going to do the smart thing to make sure I win this fight.
I've used a quote after that fight several times since then. Demetrius Andrade won 120 to 107, 120 to 107, 120 to 107, and then said, the people that want you to go to war in the ring are not the same people who show up at the hospital.
That's what it was.
And I'll never forget him saying that. So well said. So well said, my man. The people that want you to go in the war in the ring are not the same ones that show up at the hospital. So, yeah, maybe he lands something and is able to finish. And I saw him, without opening any huge windows, looking for that shot. I didn't even feel like he was walking it out or necessarily should get booed, but he took the safer approach to it where he didn't get hit with anything. And he'll likely do that again, and you may be right. He won't stop a guy that's never been stopped before. He'll beat him handily by decision. 10-2, 9-3.
Yeah, he's like Kamaru Usman. He's like Crawford. He doesn't. The fans, there's just a disconnect with the fans for some reason. But I like Andrade a lot, and I think he is one of the top, if not the top guy in middleweight right now. But now, let's head over to the octagon. We mentioned it a little bit, going from the boxing middleweight to the UFC middleweight as Whittaker and Gastelum square off. And we got Tony giving us his tale of the tape.
All right, guys. Tonight on ESPN, we have what's sure to be an exciting slugfest in the middleweight division as number 1 contender Robert Whittaker takes on number 8 Kelvin Gastelum. Let's break it down. Kelvin Gastelum, 29 years old. He's 5'9" with a 71.5-inch reach. He has a record of 16-6-1 with 6 knockouts and 4 submissions. Growing up in Yuma, Arizona, Gastelum won a Division III state wrestling title in high school, then attended North Idaho College where he was ranked as high as 5th in the country before deciding to become a professional MMA fighter. He turned pro in 2010 with a second-round TKO and went 5-0 before being selected for the Ultimate Fighter 17, Jones vs. Sonnen. After defeating Uriah Hall in the final and becoming the show's youngest winner, he got his 6-figure UFC contract and moved down to compete at welterweight. After defeating Nico Musake and Jake Ellenberger, he faced Tyron Woodley, losing 30% of his purse by missing weight and losing via split decision. It was his second time missing weight, and he was ordered by Dana White to return to the middleweight division, which he did in 2015 with a second-round TKO of Nate Marquardt. After dropping a split decision to Neil Magny, he signed to take on Donald Cerrone, but after failing to make weight again, the fight was called off, and Gastelum was told to never fight again in the welterweight division. He bounced back with a decision over Johnny Hendricks and knockouts over Tim Kennedy and Vitor Belfort, the latter fight being ruled a no contest after Gastelum tested positive for marijuana. After losing by triangle choke to Chris Weidman, he knocked out Michael Bisping with a thunderous left cross and followed that up with a hard-fought split decision over Jacare Souza. In his next fight, he put up a valiant but ultimately losing effort against Israel Adesanya for the interim belt in a brutal match considered by many to be the fight of the year for 2019. He next fought Darren Till, losing a very close split decision, and after failing the post-fight drug test was suspended for 5 months and forced to complete a drug treatment program. After getting submitted via heel hook in a little over a minute by Jack Hermanson, Gastelum was finally able to end his losing streak by defeating Ian Heinisch via unanimous decision. He enters this fight as a replacement for number 2 contender Paulo Costa, who contracted COVID-19. Robert Whittaker, 30 years old. He's 5'11" with a 73-inch reach and a record of 22-5 with 9 knockouts and 5 submissions. Born in New Zealand and raised in Australia, Whittaker began training in karate at age 7, attaining his black belt at 15. He began training in MMA shortly after, and in 2008 began his professional career with a first-round knockout. He had a solid start, going 11-2, with all of his wins coming by submission, but then he lost the decision to Court McGee and was knocked out in his next fight by Wonderboy Thompson. He then went on a 7-fight tear, including a knockout of Brad Tavares, a decision over Uriah Hall, and a pair of head kick knockouts over solid contenders Derek Brunson and Jacare Souza. This put him in line to fight Yoel Romero for the interim middleweight title. Whittaker went on to defeat Romero via decision, and after sitting out the rest of the year due to a knee injury and a staph infection, he returned to defend his belt against Romero, winning the entire fight of the night bonus of $100,000 as Romero failed to make weight. He was scheduled to fight Kelvin Gastelum, but pulled out a few hours before the fight due to a hernia. In his next defense, he took on number 1 contender Israel Adesanya, and despite putting up a solid performance in round 1 that saw Whittaker land some damaging shots, he was ultimately dethroned, getting nailed by a left hook in the middle of throwing a flurry. He bounced back in 2020, winning a pair of dominant victories over the top challengers Darren Till and Jared Cannonier to put himself back in the number 1 contender spot. The current number 6 fighter in the UFC, Whittaker has some of the cleanest boxing skills in MMA, using a wide variety of feints to set up his power shots, and also possesses grossly underrated wrestling ability and an excellent career that has been hampered by constant injuries. Conversely, Kelvin Gastelum has displayed an exceptional fight IQ, solid counterpunching, grappling, and excellent stamina in a career that has shown flashes of brilliance but has been marred by inconsistency both in the octagon and on the scales. Can Kelvin Gastelum turn this into a dogfight and pull off another upset on his road to redemption, or will the sharper technique and crisp striking lead to another dominant victory for Whittaker as he takes one step closer to winning back his title and getting revenge on Adesanya? Tune in tonight for what's sure to be a slugfest you won't want to miss.
Thank you very much for that, Tony. We will not be missing it. There was the tail of the tape, but Joe, who will come out victorious?
I will take Robert Whittaker in every fight that Robert Whittaker is in, including if he gets another shot at Israel Adesanya, even though I know he probably won't win the fight. I love this guy. I think he's one of my favorite guys in the entire sport. This is a guy who will take it to you in any way. I mean, you know, he certainly loves to scrap. He'll get down on the ground and fight dirty. I mean, I love Robert Whittaker. I think this guy's the heart this dude displays to me is off the charts. I love Robert Whittaker. I think, again, I mean, you heard it. Gastelum's got talent, but kind of like Kevin Holland. It's like, dude, I mean, you're struggling with weight, the drugs. I mean, come on, man. We all like to party, but get serious, dude. You know, this is your career. I just don't feel like he takes his career seriously enough. Robert Whittaker, obviously, since the loss to Adesanya in October 2019, that's all this guy's been thinking about. Was getting back here and went toe-to-toe with Till and with Cannonier, and he just knows he got to beat Gastelum here, who's stepping in for Paulo Costa, who I could be saying a lot of the same things about that I said about Gastelum. You know, get it together, dude. Amazingly skilled. Use your skills, and you know, that's how you get to the top of a division. But I give Robert Whittaker a lot of credit. And I would give him a fighter's chance against Adesanya after he takes care of Gastelum. I think this one goes to distance, and I think Whittaker, I think he just dominates this fight. I mean, I think Gastelum will do what he usually does. He'll have flashes of brilliance, but boy, it's hard to take Robert Whittaker out. And I don't see Gastelum taking a decision from him. So Whittaker's going to win it.
Apparently the belts these guys have don't cost a lot. I like Whittaker too, and this is one of those great situations where there's a guy I like, like not just as a fighter, but I think he's like, I like this dude, and a guy I don't like in Gastelum. I don't like Gastelum. I do like Whittaker, and I think Whittaker's the better fighter and going to win the fight. So it's got all of those things. It's rarer than it used to be, you know, that I like one guy and then dislike the other guy. So Whittaker all day.
See, this is hard for me because I like Gastelum, I like Whittaker, but when they were
don't start Gastelum up now.
No, when they were originally going to fight for the belt before Whittaker had a hernia, I really liked how Gastelum matched up with Whittaker. I like how the power he has, and how he's able to box in the pocket.
Hot take.
But now that since then, it seems like they've both gone in different directions. And I think Gastelum's just more so on the downward slope, and Whittaker's just the guy now. I'm going to pick Gastelum just for shits and giggles. But, I think Whittaker should win this fight. And if Gastelum does get this win, he can catapult himself back into the title picture. But I don't see it happening. My brain's saying go Whittaker. My heart's saying go Gastelum. So I'm going to go Gastelum.
Yeah, Whittaker.
I mean, it's.
Did you just pick Gastelum?
Yes, I just picked Gastelum.
Just now, when we both picked Whittaker.
Yeah. Okay. He's picking with his. I like it. He said his brain would go with Whittaker. He's going to go with his heart and go Gastelum. Now, again, listen. This is one of those fights where
you're right not to trust your brain.
Yeah. Whittaker. To say Whittaker's going to win this guaranteed is no. Right? I think this is a fight where, yeah, man, like if Gastelum's in the right headspace, you know, we know what this guy can do. Is he hungry enough? Is he serious enough?
Is he drugged enough?
Yeah.
I don't like Gastelum. Outside of something like that where he comes in and looks freakishly strong and we immediately wonder what's going on, I'm a lot more confident in Whittaker than it sounds like you guys are. I think this is
No. Listen, don't get me wrong. All I mean to say is, you know, can Gastelum fight a good fight against Whittaker and win a fight? Sure he can. I mean, I wouldn't say it's impossible, but again, everything I've seen from Whittaker, and since Whittaker lost to Adesanya, this guy is on fire. I mean, Gastelum will give you a good fight. To me, Whittaker wants this more. Whittaker got to the top, and he liked it, and then he lost. And he wants it again, and he seems super fired up about it. And again, dude, this is a guy who I think can take a punch as good as anybody in the UFC. And as good as Gastelum can be, I just think Whittaker's too well-rounded for him. And I think I think he wins this fight. I'm confident in Whittaker, but what I mean to say is, can Gastelum win this fight? Sure he can. You know, he's going to have to throw the kitchen sink at Whittaker because Whittaker's just not a guy you can take out. Whittaker is a guy you're going to have to beat him for all 5 rounds. The last 5 seconds of this fight, I promise you, if they're both still standing, they'll be throwing punches. And Whittaker will eat all of them and love it. So Gastelum's got his work cut out, boy. I mean, this would be a big fight for him. But as Tony just pointed out in the comments, he's like the Jerry Quarry type where you get to the top and you just don't have an A game. And I just think Whittaker with the experience and, again, having been a champion and wanting that back and knowing if he wins, he's got this showdown pretty much lined up with Adesanya. Yeah. Better than that. That's all the motivation in the world I think that guy needs.
Yeah, I like it.
The only thing why I can see Gastelum winning, why I saw Gastelum winning years ago when it was supposed to happen, when Whittaker got the hernia, was Gastelum is so good in the pocket. Like you can see that with the Bisping knockout, he's able to set it up with a nice little straight and then the hook. He's got that nice combo. He's very good when you get in close. And Whittaker, every time he gets knocked down, every time, even with Adesanya, he gets too close to guys. Same with Yoel Romero. When he gets in close, people can land on him, and those shots affect him. So that's the only reason. And like I said, at that point in time, I liked Gastelum when they were supposed to fight for the belt. But now, just how the different trajectories everyone's going. I'm still going to go Gastelum, but I don't know. But that's good.
I got to tell you, your words confuse me.
They should.
Yeah. You're saying everything.
I'm standing there with the bat, and then here comes this Bugs Bunny pitch. Oh, where is this going?
I like it because he makes some sense right until like the last 4 or 5 seconds, and then everything goes different than what he just said, and a different name comes out of his mouth.
5, 4, 3, 2, 871. Gotcha.
Yeah.
But you know what this is, Jared? You know what this is? This dude's hedging his bets like he's done previous weeks, where you and I can't be right every week, Jared. And he gets nothing if he goes along with us and we're right. But if we're wrong and he picks the other guy,
if you watch Jimmy Johnson,
it's a whole week of
yeah.
text messages liking all your comments about why Whittaker was going to win the fight. Look at him. He knows. I know what you're all about, Chase
Watch
Garcia.
Jimmy Johnson on the NFL pregames, because every year he's like 5, 10, 15 picks behind everybody else and starts deliberately picking the opposite one because it's the only way to catch up. That's what these picks are.
I said it when I picked Megan Anderson over Amanda Nunes. Like, I'm okay to admit I was wrong because I knew what was going to happen. But when I'm right,
how big of you? How big of you to admit it was a poor choice taking Megan Anderson over Amanda Nunes?
Yeah, I could be
courageous.
like,
I mean, yes, right, Jared, you're right. How this guy musters the courage to admit that was a poor choice, not only just in theory, not only on paper, but then after the ass-kicking happens, for this guy to humble himself and to look into that camera and be like, I don't know, Megan Anderson, there was every reason to pick her, and I did. She just didn't go out there and pull off the biggest upset in UFC women's history. That's not on me. That's on her.
Man, I was wrong.
Jared, the worst part is he's not wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, he will be about Gastelum.
I'm fine looking stupid next week, but if I can take that risk to eventually look like a mega genius the next week, I'll take it. I'll look like an idiot to look smart.
Fight the odds, dude. That's smart.
All right. But that's going to do it for fights this weekend. We're going to end the show like we always do. Jared, hit us with that flurry.
I've had a couple friends in the last week call me and ask me for advice on relationships. They're going through something and ended up out of relationships or just kind of looking to walk their way through it. And I had one of them say, I just feel like I just need another girl. And I'm trying to explain to him how when you jump right into a relationship after you had a relationship fail, you're destined to fall into those same pitfalls. You'll find your new dance partner and you'll start dancing and it'll happen exactly the same way, just with another face on it. And if you need a fight game representation of this, look no further than Kevin Holland's last 2 fights. Derek Brunson started to grapple with him, found out he could throw him to the ground and hold him there and rough him up. And then did that round after round and minute after minute. And Holland, 3 weeks later, with an opportunity to fight, took it. And it didn't look like that was Vettori's plan. But once they started dancing together, he found all those same gaps. And Holland hadn't spent enough time by himself in the lab to avoid falling into them. And that's what we do when we rush into relationships. Reminded me of a conversation I had with my little brother a long time ago, and he did that same thing. I just need to go find the right girl. It's not working out because I haven't found the right girl. And I said, I want you to do me a favor. You close your eyes for me. And he closed his eyes. And I said, picture that perfect girl. Really take your time. What does she look like? Lips, hips, fingertips, voice. Have a conversation with her. What does she do for work? How is she? Like, really sit and be with her. Close your eyes and really have her there. Can you see her? Can you feel her? She's right there with you. You see her? And he goes, yeah, you really see her. Everything about this girl now. He says, yeah, I can see her. I can see her. I said, all right. Now, I want to ask you a question. What does her man look like? And he went, I got to get my shit together. Go back to the lab, fill up the gaps, make sure you don't fall into the same pitfalls, because if you jump into something, you're destined to repeat all of those same mistakes and drag that other person through all of those same pitfalls. First, get your shit together. And she will be waiting there for you when you do, I promise. Or he. Thanks, guys.
Hi, my name is Allison Gamber. I'm the Executive Director for the Cove Center for Grieving Children. Our office is located in Meriden, and we provide services throughout Connecticut. We are so excited to be having a virtual event coming up, the Hope and Healing Virtual Auction and Celebration. The auction will be held April 22nd to the 24th. And the celebration will be held on the evening of April 24th to talk all about the Cove services and what we've accomplished over the last 26 years. If you'd like to join us for the celebration, registration is free, and you can find all that information on www.covect.org. And the link for the virtual auction will be put up there on the evening of April 21st to start live auctioning on April 22nd. So come and join us to celebrate the Cove and raise some funds so we can continue to offer our programs free of charge.
Okay. Thank you for that, Flurry, Jared. Thank you for the Cove. Make sure you check that out for that auction. Well, and thank you guys for watching and listening to us. I'm excited for this weekend. Got some great fights in store. But thank you guys. We hope to see you next week for more Throwing Jabs. Take care.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is our main event.